So I'm just sitting here. There's a hawk circling in the field over here, and we have our one duck group out, um, rotating them around. And they're currently out of their netting once again. So I come out here to put them in, but today is a bad day for me. So I decided that I was going to make this video and make this video about, which I've said before, having a why. Why are you doing this? Why? Your why is so important. It's going to be what helps keep you going on your bad days and just what keeps you going. Having your why, being strong in your why and your ways. So for me personally, the why is kind of two parts to my why. It's for my own health, but also the future health of my children. So, I mean, there's a lot of backstory to my health, and I'm not going to go into great detail here today, maybe in the future, but I was always kind of a sickly kid. I was raised on a conventional farm. My family was in an accident when I was pretty young, and we lost my sister in that accident. And from there, my health just kind of seemed to deteriorate as the years went on. When I was young, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. Nothing was ever really done about it. So it was basically said that I wouldn't be able to have children. We've been blessed with 4 children. But life's really been a roller coaster for my health and for my family as well. So that's one of the strongest reasons for my why. But fast forward to into a few years of my health issues, I decided to pull raw DNA data, and found out that I have a bunch of gene mutations, not just in my methylation detoxing process ways, but in a bunch of different pathways. And lots of them I'm doubly mutated. So that means I'll be passing a mutated gene down to my kids. They got to get one from me, and if both of mine are mutated, then they end up with a mutated one from me. So this is really more of a long haul type thing. We want to raise our kids in a way that they are going to know how to take care of themselves, and not have to go through the same health issues that I've been through. So I know I mentioned about the endometriosis, but I was also diagnosed with ER positive cancer, so estrogen receptor positive cancer, when I was pregnant with our 4th child. And that comes from estrogen dominance. So I have estrogen dominance, which means I produce more estrogen than I should, and ER receptive positive cancer is picking up that extra estrogen. So endometriosis and estrogen dominance run hugely in on my mom's side of my family, and I have two daughters. So they most likely are going to have some of the same issues that I've had. Now, had we been doing something to treat the estrogen dominance, maybe I wouldn't have ended up with cancer. But medically, we weren't. They weren't doing anything. They put me on the pill to try to help level out the hormones, which honestly just made everything so much worse for me. So when I was a teenager, I decided to come off of it. I couldn't stand the headaches, and I was constantly cold and hot flashes, and it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right way for me. But also doing nothing and ending up with a cancer isn't really the right way for anybody either. So when I was diagnosed, I was pregnant with our fourth, like I said. I was 4.5 months pregnant with him. And the Western medicine solution was to have a medical abortion and to have surgery, removal, chemo, radiation, if that was needed. I mean, right in the moment, I didn't say no. I did tell my doctor that I didn't think that that was a path that we would choose, but that I would have to talk to my husband first, obviously. Neither of us really agreed that it's fair to abort our child that already had a heartbeat. He already had hands. He already had feet. He was alive inside me. So obviously we didn't take that option. He's here today. That's Finn. If anybody watches our channel, you've seen him in videos. He's our youngest. But it left me in a place where I didn't have guidance or help from the medical community. And this wasn't the first time. So we went back to natural herbal ways. I honestly, without a sheet of paper pre-wrote down, I couldn't tell you everything that we did do. We did a lot of things. Essential oils like frankincense. We ordered in Garvolia tree extract, and I took that as pill. We put it into veggie capsules, and I would take that. We did baking soda, raw honey, cinnamon mixture. Cleaned up the diet some. I mean, we were already eating cleaner because previously I had hereditary liver failure right after our second daughter was born, which usually dates back. It's a slow progress liver failure, so usually it's been going on for about 10 years before you have severe symptoms. It did almost kill me. Again, there wasn't much help from the medical community. They kept telling me that I was feeling that way because I was a new young mom. Our first daughter, there's 15 months between our two daughters. And so our first daughter was quite young still. And it just all got blamed on that I had just had a second baby and had a toddler and a baby, a newborn. And that's just how women feel. And that you just have to learn how to live with it, basically. Deal with it. It'll get better as they get older, kind of thing. I began losing weight severely. I was never a big person to begin with. I always struggled with keeping weight on. And anyways, outcome with that was that I did almost die. I was almost dead. And it was actually my dad who, I don't want to say begged, but he suggested I see an alternative practitioner. And so I went to a live blood analysis who worked with herbs. So he would look at your blood, live blood, and also dried samples to see what was going on inside the body, and then recommend specific herbs to help those issues. So even then, he said I had a lot of estrogen activity, but that wasn't our main concern. At that moment, it was the liver. I did have medical testing done on my liver as well, eventually, and it was functioning at about a 3%, so pretty low. I couldn't keep fluids or solids down. So that was a long 2-year recovery. And then we had our third child after that, our first son. And I had some other issues with my adrenals and stuff. My grandmother on my mom's side has Addison's disease, and which is an adrenal insufficiency disease, autoimmune. At that point, I was told I had the same thing. So I decided to treat that naturally as well. And it's an ongoing thing for me. They aren't fully healed. If I overdo it physically, emotionally, or mentally, I'll flare myself up. And that's what also helps contribute to these bad days. So when your adrenals are pumping out cortisol, it has many, many effects on the body. So you're basically in a fight or flight response. As you can see, the phone is shaking a lot as I'm holding it. That's one of the things. I get this really bad shake from it. It makes it hard to really do anything. I also get this severe pain in my lower back where your adrenals are, and I'll be nauseous as well. So there's that we still continually kind of deal with. But then I was feeling a lot better, and so 2 years later we decided to try for Finn, and that's where we come to what I started with, the cancer. So I did a lot of research. I watched the docu-series Truth About Cancer. Ty Bollinger put that on with a few other people, but there's lots of great information in there, and that's where a lot of the things we did do come from, was that docu-series. I tried speaking to my doctor about doing these things because medically they weren't going to do anything for me because I was pregnant. So he said he didn't really think any of it would work or help or anything like that. He kind of thought I was crazy. He did tell me that I was going to widow my husband and leave my 3 older children without a mother and kill the baby I was carrying and myself in the process. So we just basically went with not being monitored or helped by the medical community. In my pregnancy with Finn also had a lot of issues too, so they were monitoring him. They thought he had a congenital heart defect, but he didn't. He ended up he had pericardial effusion, which is a buildup of fluid around the heart in the pericardial sac. fetal pericardial effusion, it can cause issues or it can be okay. Sometimes the body will reabsorb that fluid. In Finn's case, eventually his body did reabsorb the fluid, which we're very blessed for that, because it can cause a lot of issues in life for them. So there was a lot of monitoring for the baby, but not on my part. I found a medical study on indole 3 carbinol, which is produced, I3C is produced in vegetables, and that it blocks estrogen receptors. So in this medical study that I had found, they had actually used it for estrogen cancer, cervical cancer, which is what I had, estrogen positive cervical cancer. And so we decided, there was no medical studies done on pregnant women, but we decided that since it's a natural substance in vegetables, which I was consuming a lot of to begin with, that it would probably be okay. So I did take I3C pills, and I do think they helped. I couldn't really do a lot while I was pregnant because a lot of it would have passed through. So the cancer didn't get worse, but it also didn't get better while I was pregnant with Finn. So after Finn, I had a really bad delivery with Finn. It was a shoulder dystocia delivery, so I was injured and so was Finn. But the alternative can be death of the baby. So again, we feel blessed in the way that the situation played out. It's a very traumatic delivery for both the baby and the mom. So I did have a longer recovery. But after my recovery, I did go get checked to see where I was, kind of where we were sitting at with the cancer, and that was more so for our family. At that point, I was kind of, how do I say this right? I think Western medicine has a place. It's just not in actual healthcare. Emergency surgeries, things like that. It could have a place. Diagnostic, it could have a place. But in the actual healthcare, when I needed help, they were never there. They would always just try to prescribe me pain medication and send me on my way. I didn't want the pain medication. The pain medication's not good for my liver. So I felt like really they were just going to make my life worse by what they were trying to prescribe, not better. So at that point, I was pretty, I guess, frustrated with the medical community. So, or Western medicine, I should say. So I really didn't want to go and get tested. But at the same time, it wasn't just me in the situation. My husband, my children, and our family were also in that situation. And so I went and I got the testing done. And that's where we found out that it wasn't worse, which was great because it is a fast progressing cancer. Medically, they did think that I would be dead before I delivered. So for it to be at the same stage post-delivery was a lot better than what they had thought it was going to be. I felt a little defeated though. So Finn ended up having a lot of issues with me breastfeeding. I have to eat quite differently for my liver. And we were trying different things to get everything to work for Finn, um, through my diet. But eventually we just decided, we seen a chiropractor, and because Finn did sustain damage into his shoulder and his collarbone in his delivery, and also his lumbars in his back. Anyways, we eventually decided to switch to a goat milk formula with Finn. So at that point, when we started goat milk formula with Finn, I started doing a lot more for the cancer, because I didn't have to worry about anything passing through my milk into Finn. And I decided to go raw vegan for a little while. Um, I'm by no means saying that meat is bad for you, because I don't believe it is. It's just most people had said that they got the best results when they went raw vegan with their cancer journeys. So that's what we decided would be the best. I did still eat hard boiled eggs, so I guess technically I wasn't fully raw vegan. And the odd time I would have meat, but I tried to stick to white meats because they're easier for my liver to break down. Um, and anyways, I had the most progress with all of the other things that I was doing, while I also went raw vegan in my diet. And so it was 6 months, maybe 5 months. I would have to look. 5 or 6 months post delivery that I got checked again, and there was no cancer. It was gone. So, of course, the doctors didn't believe that any of the natural treatments we did could have worked. So, there was really no explanation on their part why it was gone, because I didn't receive any Western medicine treatments. Um, but something we did obviously worked. So, doing herbal and treating a lot of things just through diet have been what saved my life twice. So to me, that's a pretty big why. Um, Knowing that my liver was hereditary, and that I have quite a few mutations in my methylation pathways, which involve the liver, and my detox pathways, again, is the liver. And knowing that I can only pass those mutated genes on to my children is also a pretty big why. I don't want my kids to ever almost die from liver failure. I don't want my kids to ever have to experience and go through cancer. I don't want my daughters to have the same problems I have from having estrogen dominance and endometriosis. And so if we can help them now with the lifestyle we live, and they learn it and they understand it, and they can provide for it for them, they can provide through it for themselves. That really is our end goal. So on days where I'm having a bad day and I'm sore and I just don't want to keep going on, and I have a migraine and I'm just tired and feel like death, and I could just lay down and sleep for 5 days straight, that's what keeps me going, is my why and my kids. And my kids not having to live the same life and go through the same experiences that I had to go through in order to get us here to where we are today. So on days like today, I will just putz around and do what I can. Obviously, everything that has to get done, the chores that have to get done, animal feed, moving animals, watering plants, all of those things, they do get done. But the extra stuff, like getting the rest of our garden boxes set up, or hauling dirt, or cleaning up the sod, that's all going to be there tomorrow. I might end up being a little behind on planting, which doesn't make it easy. In my area, we have 79 growing days. So it does kind of suck if I'm behind on planting, but we'll get there anyways. We'll still have food. We'll still have food to can, and those seeds and the dirt and the compost, they're all going to be there tomorrow. And if I'm feeling better tomorrow, I'll get it done tomorrow. So the point is to have your why, and actually think about your why to the point where it will make you strong and steadfast in your ways. If your why is flimsy, oh, I'm doing this because I want to raise animals. I'm doing this because it's the new trend. I'm doing this just because I want to. That most likely is not going to get you through the hard times. And it is hard. It's not easy. It's not easy work unless you have the means to have like tractors to turn your compost, all of those different things, the bigger tools. If you have the money to spend on them, then a lot of the work can be easier. But if you're homesteading on a single income like we are, you most likely aren't going to have the funds to have all of the fancy machinery and things like that. So it is going to be a lot of physical labor. Once you figure out your way, it doesn't necessarily mean it's hard labor, but it is work. And so if you're just in this on a whim, it's most likely not going to be something that sticks for you. But if you have a true why to back why you're doing this, then you're in it for the long haul, like we are. And it doesn't matter how many bad days you have. It doesn't matter how many sicknesses you end up having. It doesn't matter what the weather's doing. You'll still be here doing it tomorrow. And your why will be what helps pick you up off the ground when you've been knocked down. And you're going to get knocked down. We all do. Doesn't matter how long you've been growing a garden for. There could be something that comes through and just wipes out your whole garden. Say hail. You weren't prepared for the hail, or you weren't home to cover, or whatever, and your whole garden's gone. Doesn't matter if you've been gardening for 3 seconds or 30 years. That can happen to you. So we all have trials and tribulations that we need to go through, no matter how long we've been doing it. So having your reason to help back you up and pick you back up after you've been knocked down, it's super important. So I encourage everybody to just sit down and actually think about your why. Find out your reason, because it's going to be what keeps you going this year and in the years to come. Thank you. I hope everybody has a beautiful day.